The bank told me I owed $485,000 on a mortgage I never signed. Turns out my sister used my name to buy her dream house. At family dinner, I didn't say a word, just slid the foreclosure notice across the table. Her face went white. So did everyone else's. Hey Reddit, this story happened over the past 2 years, and I'm finally ready to share the whole thing. Fair warning, this is long, but trust me, it's worth the read. Also, throwaway account for obvious reasons. I, 31 male, work as a senior financial analyst for a Fortune 500 company in Dallas, and I thought I had my life figured out. Good salary, $89,000. Own my house, decent truck, and I've been saving to start my own financial consulting firm. I'm not flashy with money. I actually read those boring investment books and max out my retirement accounts like a responsible adult. My sister Jessica, 34 female, is the complete opposite of me. She's never worked a real job in her life, calls herself a lifestyle blogger and wellness entrepreneur, but basically just posts bikini photos and tries to sell overpriced supplements to desperate women. She married this guy Trent who sells luxury cars and thinks he's some kind of business mogul. These two are constantly showing off on social media. Designer everything, expensive dinners, trips to exotic locations, the whole Instagram lifestyle. Meanwhile, I'm over here meal prepping and driving my paid-off 2018 Silverado because I understand how compound interest works, but I never questioned how they afforded their lifestyle. Jessica was always talking about her brand partnerships, and Trent bragged about his investment portfolio. I figured maybe some people really were making that kind of money from social media. Shows how naive I was. So anyway, this all started 8 months ago on a Tuesday. I'm at work reviewing quarterly reports when my phone rings. Unknown number, which I usually ignore, but something made me pick up. Mr. Rodriguez, this is the loan officer from Texas First National Bank. I'm calling about your missed mortgage payments on your investment property. I literally stopped typing and stared at my computer screen. I'm sorry, what? I don't have any investment properties. I have one mortgage on my primary residence, and that's current. Sir, according to our records, you took out a $485,000 mortgage in March for a property at 2847 Lake Vista Drive in Westlake Hills. My blood went cold. Lake Vista Drive. That's where Jessica and Trent had moved into their dream house about 6 months ago. The one they'd been showcasing all over Instagram with captions like blessed and dreams do come true. There has to be some mistake, I said. But even as I said it, I knew there wasn't. The loan officer kept talking about missed payments, default notices, foreclosure proceedings. Apparently, I had made the first few payments, but nothing since June. My credit was destroyed. I was looking at a $485,000 debt for a house I'd never even been inside. After I hung up, I just sat there staring at my monitors for 20 minutes. My coworkers probably thought I was having some kind of breakdown. Finally, I told my supervisor I had a family emergency and needed to leave early. I drove straight to the bank branch and demanded to see all the paperwork. The loan officer laid out folder after folder of documents, loan application, income verification, tax returns, employment letters, all with my signature. Except it wasn't really my signature, was it? Sir, if you're claiming you didn't apply for this loan, you need to understand this appears to be identity theft and fraud. These are serious federal crimes. Someone had stolen my identity to buy a $500,000 house. Someone who knew my social security number, my employment history, my bank information. Someone who could forge my signature well enough to fool multiple financial institutions. Someone like my sister, who'd grown up watching me sign birthday cards and Christmas presents for 30 years. I need copies of everything, I told the loan officer. And I need to know exactly how this loan was processed. The application was submitted online using my personal information, but the income verification showed I was supposedly making $142,000 a year, almost twice my actual salary. The down payment came from an account I'd never seen before. That night, I sat in my living room with all the bank documents spread out on my coffee table, trying to figure out my next move. I pulled up Jessica's Instagram and scrolled through months of posts from her dream house, the infinity pool, the gourmet kitchen, the walk-in closet bigger than most apartments. Every single post was tagged with location data for 2847 Lake Vista Drive, the house I was apparently paying for. I'd always known Jessica was shallow and materialistic, but this was next-level sociopathy. She'd stolen my identity, destroyed my credit, and stuck me with almost $500,000 in debt so she could live out her Instagram fantasy. But Jessica had made one crucial mistake. She'd picked the wrong brother to mess with. I work in finance. I know how to investigate financial crimes, how to trace money flows, how to build cases that hold up in court. This wasn't just identity theft. This was war. The next day, I took off work and went full investigation mode. First stop, pulled my credit reports from all three bureaus. What I found made me want to punch a wall. The mortgage was just the beginning. There were 6 credit cards I'd never applied for, with limits between $12,000 and $28,000 each, all maxed out. A personal loan for $38,000, a car loan for $65,000 for a BMW I'd never seen, and a business line of credit for $78,000 supposedly for my consulting company. Total damage, over $780,000 in debt that I had no idea existed. My credit score had gone from 798 to 534 in less than 6 months. I was financially ruined and didn't even know it. But here's where my finance background came in handy. I started documenting everything, creating spreadsheets, building timelines. I called the bank that issued each fraudulent account and requested all the application materials. Every single one had been submitted online. Every single one used slightly modified versions of my email address. Every single one listed inflated income figures that would just barely qualify for the credit limits. This wasn't some random identity thief who got lucky. This was someone who knew me intimately. My employment history, my addresses going back years, even my mother's maiden name for security questions. I traced the applications and found they all originated from the same location, Jessica and Trent's old apartment complex. The dates matched perfectly with when they were apartment hunting for their upgrade. The most damning evidence came from Jessica's own social media. I spent hours analyzing her posts, and the timeline was crystal clear. January, posts about manifestation and leveling up our lives. February, vague posts about big moves coming and investing in our future. March, sudden posts about house hunting in Westlake Hills. April, the big reveal of their dream house, with captions about hard work paying off. What she didn't post about was where the down payment came from, or how a lifestyle blogger and car salesman qualified for a $485,000 mortgage. I also discovered something interesting in her older posts. Back in December, she'd shared this meme about family looking out for family, with a caption about how blood is thicker than water. Real ironic, considering she was planning to financially destroy me. I did some research into Trent's background and found out his car sales job was actually pretty unstable. The dealership he worked for had been investigated for predatory lending practices, and Trent himself had been sued twice for contract violations. These two were living way beyond their means and needed a way to fund their lifestyle. Enter Mike Rodriguez, the responsible brother with excellent credit and detailed personal information they'd accumulated over years of family gatherings. I consulted with a criminal defense attorney who specialized in white-collar crime. He was highly recommended and had handled similar cases. "This is definitely identity theft and wire fraud," my lawyer said, after reviewing my evidence. "The fact that it's family doesn't make it less serious. If anything, it makes it worse because of the breach of trust involved." He explained that I'd need to file police reports, dispute all the fraudulent accounts, and be prepared for a long legal battle. But he also said something that caught my attention. The perpetrators have likely committed multiple federal crimes. If prosecuted fully, they're looking at significant prison time and financial penalties. Prison time. For Jessica and Trent. I won't lie, that thought gave me satisfaction. But my lawyer also warned me. Family cases like this often get complicated because victims sometimes get pressured to drop charges. You need to be prepared for that. He clearly didn't know my family. My parents had always favored Jessica because she was the fun one, while I was just the reliable one who never caused drama. They'd probably try to guilt me into protecting her. Too bad I was way past caring about family harmony. That evening, I did something I probably shouldn't have. I drove by Jessica's house, my house, according to the mortgage documents. It was even more ridiculous in person than in her Instagram posts. Huge colonial mansion, circular driveway, manicured lawn that probably cost more to maintain than most people's rent. I sat in my truck across the street, watching them through the windows. Jessica was in the kitchen, making what looked like a smoothie bowl for another one of her posts. Trent was on the couch playing video games on a massive TV. Neither of them had a care in the world. They were living like royalty on my stolen credit while I was facing financial ruin. That's when I made my decision. Filing a police report was just the beginning. These two had stolen from me, lied to me, and destroyed my credit for their own selfish benefit. Simple criminal prosecution wasn't enough. I was going to systematically destroy their lives, just like they'd tried to destroy mine. Friday morning, I walked into the Dallas Police Department's Financial Crimes Unit carrying a banker's box full of evidence. I'm talking printed emails, bank statements, credit reports, transaction analyses, social media screenshots, Everything organized with tabs and highlighters. The detective who caught my case looked like he'd seen every type of criminal behavior imaginable. When I told him my sister had stolen my identity, he didn't even blink. Family fraud is about 60% of the identity theft cases we see, the detective said. Usually it's parents stealing from kids, but siblings isn't uncommon. Let me see what you've got. I walked him through everything. The timeline, the evidence, the financial analysis, the social media posts. The detective was actually impressed with how thorough I'd been. You did my job for me, he said. This is one of the most well-documented cases I've seen. Your sister and her husband are looking at serious federal charges. He explained the process. They'd investigate, get warrants for digital evidence, and coordinate with the FBI for the wire fraud charges. Given the amount of money involved and the fact that it crossed state lines, this was heading to federal court. Are you prepared for your family to pressure you to drop this? The detective asked. Detective, I said. My sister stole $750,000 from me and was planning to let me go bankrupt while she lived in a mansion. My family can pressure all they want. While I was building the criminal case, I'd also been working on something else. See, Jessica and Trent were living beyond their means even before they stole from me. They had car payments on both the BMW and Trent's ridiculous Porsche, credit card debt from their pre-identity theft days, a loan against Trent's retirement account. They were basically juggling financial chainsaws, and the only thing keeping them afloat was the money they'd stolen from me. But what if that money suddenly went away? I started making phone calls. First, to the mortgage company, informing them that the loan was fraudulent and that I'd be disputing all payments. Then to the credit card companies, same thing. Then to the bank that held their car loans. Turns out Trent had used some of my stolen credit as collateral. Within 48 hours, Jessica and Trent's entire financial house of cards was under investigation. Every account, every loan, every line of credit was being scrutinized for fraud. But I wasn't done. I also reached out to some contacts in the marketing world. See, Jessica's Instagram career was built on fake engagement and purchased followers. I'd suspected it for years, but now I had the motivation to actually prove it. Turns out about 70% of her followers were bots, and most of her brand partnerships were with companies that were paying her with free products rather than actual money. Her entire influencer persona was as fake as everything else about her. I anonymously tipped off some social media watchdog accounts about her fake metrics. Within days, she was getting called out publicly for fraud. Her follower count started dropping as Instagram purged the bot accounts. The best part? She had no idea it was me. She was probably thinking it was just bad luck that all this was happening at once. Tuesday afternoon, the detective called. We are executing arrest warrants today. Your sister and her husband will be in custody by evening. Around 3 p.m., my phone started ringing constantly. First, a frantic call from my mom. Mike, Jessica's been arrested. They're saying she stole your identity. This has to be some kind of mistake. Then my dad. Son, we need to talk. There's been some kind of misunderstanding with Jessica. Then, unexpectedly, a call from Trent's phone. But it wasn't Trent. It was Jessica, crying hysterically. Mike, please, you have to help us. They're saying we're going to prison. This is all a big misunderstanding. What's the misunderstanding, Jessica? I asked calmly. That you stole my identity? That you destroyed my credit? That you bought a house in my name without telling me? We were going to pay you back. We just needed some time to get established. Established? You're 34 years old. We can work this out as a family, she continued. You don't need to involve the police. Actually, Jessica, I do. Because what you did isn't a family disagreement. It's a federal crime. Multiple federal crimes, actually. The local news picked up the story that evening. Social media influencer charged in $780,000 identity theft scheme. They didn't name me as the victim, but they sure named Jessica and Trent as the defendants. I went to bed that night feeling satisfied for the first time in weeks. About a week after Jessica and Trent got arrested and bailed out, my mom called and practically begged me to come to Sunday dinner. We need to work this out as a family, she said. Jessica made a mistake, but she's still your sister. A mistake. Like she accidentally stole $750,000. But I agreed to come because I had plans. While Jessica and Trent were dealing with their legal troubles, I'd been busy. Real busy. I'd made an anonymous tip to Trent's dealership's corporate office about his arrest for financial fraud. Turns out employers don't like keeping people around who are facing federal charges for theft. I also reached out to Jessica's remaining brand sponsors with screenshots of her arrest record and the news articles about the identity theft. Companies don't want their products associated with federal criminals. By Sunday dinner, both of them were basically unemployed and facing serious prison time. I showed up carrying a folder that contained some very interesting documents. Jessica and Trent were already there, looking like they'd been through hell. Jessica had clearly been crying and wasn't wearing any of her usual Instagram-ready makeup. Trent looked like he hadn't slept in days. Both of them perked up when they saw me, probably thinking I was there to forgive them. "Mike!" Jessica jumped up and tried to hug me. "Thank God you're here. We need to talk." I stepped back from her attempted hug. "Yeah, we do need to talk." My parents were hovering nervously. Dad got me a soda without asking, which felt more like a peace offering than hospitality. "Son," Dad started, "we know there's been some difficulties between you and Jessica." "Difficulties? That's what we're calling felony fraud now." "But she's family," Mom added quickly. "And family works things out together." I sat down at the table across from Jessica and Trent, opened my folder, and pulled out the first document. "You're right, Mom. Families should work things out. So let's work this out." I slid a paper across to Jessica. "This is a foreclosure notice for the house you bought in my name. The bank wants the full balance paid immediately, or they're seizing the property." Jessica's face went white. "But our lawyer said we could work out a payment plan." That was before I disputed the mortgage as fraudulent. Now the bank wants their money back, and since the loan was never legitimate, they're not interested in payment plans. I pulled out another document. "This is a notice from BMW Financial. They're repossessing your car because the loan was secured with fraudulent credit." Trent started to say something, but I cut him off. "And this is a lawsuit I'm filing against both of you for the full amount of the identity theft, plus damages for the harm to my credit, plus punitive damages for emotional distress. I'm seeking $1.2 million. The room was dead silent. "Mike," Jessica whispered, "you can't do this to us. We're broke. We'll lose everything." "Good, because I almost lost everything because of what you did to me." My parents were looking back and forth between us, like they were watching a tennis match. "There has to be another way," Dad said. "Can't you just drop the charges? Work something out privately?" I actually laughed out loud. "Drop the charges? Dad, do you have any idea what they did to me? They didn't just steal money. They destroyed my credit score. They put me on the hook for debts that could have ruined my life forever." "We were going to pay you back," Jessica said desperately. "With what money? You're both unemployed. Your house is being foreclosed on. Your cars are being repossessed. Your credit is destroyed. You have nothing left to steal from me." That's when things got really ugly. Jessica's tears turned to anger. "You know what your problem is, Mike? You've always been jealous of me. Jealous that I took risks and lived my life while you sat in your little house crunching numbers." "Took risks? You mean committed felonies?" "I mean, I had ambition. I wanted more than just existing paycheck to paycheck. So you stole from your own brother to get it." My parents tried to mediate, but this was beyond their ability to fix. "Look," Dad said, "maybe there's a middle ground here. Mike, what would it take for you to consider dropping the charges?" I pretended to think about it. "Full restitution. Every penny they stole, plus interest, plus damages to my credit, and a public apology posted on all their social media accounts admitting what they did." "How much money are we talking about?" Mom asked quietly. "About $900,000, plus another $300,000 in damages. So call it $1. $2 million. Jessica made a choking sound. "We don't have that kind of money." "Then I guess you're going to prison." I stood up to leave, but Jessica grabbed my arm. "Wait, there has to be something else. Some other way to make this right." I looked down at her desperate face and felt nothing. No sympathy, no family loyalty, no desire to help her. "Actually, there might be one thing," I said, "but you're not going to like it." They both perked up hopefully. "You confess to everything, publicly. You make a video explaining exactly what you did, how you did it, and why you did it. You post it on all your social media. You send it to the news stations. And then you'll drop the charges?" Trent asked. I smiled. "Number, but I might consider not seeking the maximum penalties when you're sentenced." The look of hope dying in their eyes was beautiful. "You're a monster," Jessica whispered. "No," I said, heading for the door. "I'm the brother whose life you tried to destroy. The difference is, when I destroy your life, it's justice." The next few months were like watching a slow-motion train wreck. Every week brought new disasters for Jessica and Trent. The house got foreclosed on. I actually drove by the day they had to move out, just to see Jessica crying on the front lawn, while movers repossessed furniture she'd bought with my stolen credit. The local news was there too, because apparently Instagram influencer loses mansion in identity theft case was newsworthy. The footage went viral on social media with captions like, "When your fake life catches up to you." They had to move in with Trent's parents, which was hilarious because Trent had spent years talking down about his dad's blue-collar job. Now he was sleeping in his childhood bedroom at 35 years old. The car repossessions happened next. Jessica's BMW got towed from a Target parking lot while she was inside shopping. The whole thing was recorded by some bystander and ended up on social media. Jessica's Instagram empire collapsed in real time. Her follower count dropped from 150,000 to about 25,000 as people realized she was a fraud. The remaining followers were mostly hate-watching, leaving comments about prison and karma. Her brand partnerships dried up completely. She tried to pivot to a redemption narrative, posting videos about learning from mistakes, but it was too little, too late. Meanwhile, I was getting regular updates about their legal situation. The federal prosecutor wasn't messing around. They were looking at serious prison time. Jessica could get 5 to 7 years. Trent might get 3 to 5 as an accomplice. About 4 months after their arrest, Jessica called me, crying hysterically, begging me to meet her somewhere. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop. When I got there, I barely recognized her. She'd lost probably 20 pounds, her hair was limp, and she was wearing clothes that looked like they came from discount stores. "You look terrible," I said, sitting down across from her. "Thanks," she said bitterly. "That's what happens when your life gets destroyed. Karma's interesting, isn't it?" She started crying again. "Mike, please, I'm begging you. If you don't drop the charges, I'm going to prison for years. Trent, too. Our lives will be over. Your lives should be over. You're criminals. I know what we did was wrong, but we were desperate. Trent's business was failing. I wasn't making enough from Instagram. We were about to lose everything. So you decided to steal from me instead of getting real jobs? It wasn't supposed to be permanent. We thought we could pay you back before you even noticed." I leaned back in my chair. "Jessica, you stole $750,000 from me. How exactly did you think I wouldn't notice? We were going to tell you eventually. You were planning to declare bankruptcy in my name and disappear. I saw the searches on your computer." She looked surprised that I knew about that. "How did you—" "I'm not as stupid as you think I am. I know how to investigate things. I know how to build cases. And I know how to destroy people who cross me. What do you want from me?" she whispered. I pretended to consider it. "Full confession, public apology, and you admit that you're a worthless piece of trash who betrayed her own family for money. If I do that, will you drop the charges?" "No." "Then why would I do it?" "Because it might make me feel better about what I'm going to do next." I pulled out my phone and showed her a document I'd been working on. It was a detailed expose of her entire fake life. The purchased followers, the fake brand deals, the lies about her income, everything. I'm sending this to every marketing blog, social media watchdog, and investigative journalist I can find. By the time I'm done, Jessica Rodriguez will be synonymous with social media fraud. Her face went white. "You can't do that. I'll never be able to work in marketing or social media again." "That's the point. But how will I make money when I get out of prison?" "That's not my problem. Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to steal from me." "I don't understand. We're family. How can you be so cruel?" "Family?" I laughed. "Jessica, you stopped being my family the moment you decided to destroy my financial life for your Instagram fantasies. Now you're just a criminal who happens to share my DNA. Please, Mike, I'll do anything. I'll be your servant. I'll work for free. You'll go to prison," I said, standing up. "And when you get out, you'll have nothing. No house, no car, no money, no career, no reputation. You'll have to start over from zero, just like you tried to make me do. That's not justice, that's revenge." "You're right. It is revenge. And it feels amazing." About 8 months after Jessica and Trent's arrest, we finally got to the sentencing hearing. The courtroom was packed with reporters and people who just wanted to watch justice being served. When the judge called me to make a victim impact statement, I was ready. "Your Honor, 8 months ago, I discovered that my sister and her husband had stolen my identity to finance a lifestyle they couldn't afford. They took out a mortgage, multiple credit cards, personal loans, and a business line of credit in my name, totaling over $780,000 in fraudulent debt." I looked directly at Jessica as I continued, but the financial damage was just the beginning. They destroyed my credit score, which I'd spent years building. They put my home ownership at risk. They jeopardized my ability to get loans, rent apartments, or even keep my job. More than that, they betrayed a trust that can never be repaired. The defendants have shown no real remorse for their actions. Even after being caught, they continued to minimize their crimes, claiming they were borrowing from family. "Your Honor, I'm asking for the maximum sentence allowed by law. Not because I'm vindictive, but because justice demands real consequences for deliberate, calculated crimes. Judge Williams looked at Jessica and Trent. Stand for sentencing. Ms. Rodriguez, you have committed serious federal crimes that caused substantial financial and emotional harm to your own brother. I sentence you to 36 months in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised probation and full restitution in the amount of $847,000. 3 years for Jessica. Mr. Hendricks, I sentence you to 24 months in federal prison, followed by 3 years supervised probation and joint liability for restitution. 2 years for Trent. As they were being handcuffed, Jessica finally looked at me. Her eyes were red with tears, and her mouth was moving like she was trying to say something. I just stared back with no expression. 2 years into their sentences, I got a call that changed everything. Turns out Jessica and Trent had been running a whole network of financial scams. They'd stolen identities from at least 6 other people, friends, relatives, even Trent's former co-workers. Total damages were over $2 million. Both of them were looking at additional federal charges that could add another 8 to 12 years to their sentences. I also got a call from a civil attorney representing victims in a class action lawsuit. The settlement was looking at $15 to $20 million, and as the first victim to report the crimes, I'd be eligible for the largest share, about $3 to $4 million. The case made national news. Jessica's mugshot was everywhere, always paired with screenshots of her ridiculous Instagram posts about manifesting wealth. She'd wanted to be famous. Mission accomplished. About 6 months ago, I got a collect call from federal prison. It was Jessica. Mike? Her voice was barely a whisper. Thank you for taking my call. What do you want, Jessica? I need help. We both do. The new charges. Our lawyer says we're looking at another 10 to 15 years. Sounds about right. Mike, please. I know what we did was wrong, but we can't survive another decade in prison. Should have thought about that before you became career criminals. We weren't career criminals. We just got in over our heads. Jessica, you stole from dozens of people over 3 years. You were planning to steal from me again when you got out. You're textbook career criminals. The class action lawsuit, they're saying you might get millions. Yeah, I heard. That money, it's coming from destroying our lives. No, that money is coming from you destroying other people's lives. I'm just getting compensated for it. Mike, please, I'm begging you. If you testified on our behalf at the new sentencing hearing, maybe the judge would show mercy. I laughed. You want me to testify for you? After everything you did? What would it take? What would you need for you to help us? Nothing you can offer. Please, I'll do anything. We'll work for you for free when we get out. We'll sign over any money we ever make. Jessica, stop. There's nothing you can say or do that would make me help you. You made your choices. Now you get to live with the consequences. We'll die in prison. Another 10 to 15 years. We'll be in our 50s when we get out. Our lives will be over. Good. Maybe that'll prevent you from destroying anyone else's life. I'm your brother, she screamed. How can you be so heartless? I'm heartless? You stole my identity, destroyed my credit, and tried to leave me bankrupt. You did this to dozens of other people. You were planning to do it to me again. And you think I'm heartless for not helping you? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. What more do you want from me? Nothing. I don't want anything from you because you have nothing I want. You're a criminal who's going to spend the next decade or two in prison, and that's exactly what you deserve. Please, Mike, I'll get on my knees. I'll grovel. I'll humiliate myself however you want. Just please help us. No, I said simply. Mike, please. I said no. Enjoy prison, Jessica. I hung up and blocked the prison's phone number. 3 months later, Jessica and Trent were sentenced to an additional 12 years each. With their original sentences, they'll be in prison until they're almost 50. The class action settlement came through last month. My share was $3.8 million after legal fees. I used some of the money to start my financial consulting business and bought a bigger house. Nothing crazy, but comfortable. Jessica sent me one final letter from prison. Mike, I know you'll probably never forgive me, and I understand why. I destroyed your life and the lives of so many other people because I was selfish and greedy and stupid. I can't take any of it back. I'll probably die in prison because of the choices I made. I just want you to know that I'm sorry, even though sorry isn't enough. I hope you have a good life. You deserve it more than I ever deserved the money I stole. I read it twice, then threw it in the trash. Some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. Some betrayals are too deep to forgive. Some people make choices that put themselves beyond redemption. Jessica made her choices. Now she gets to live with them for the next 12 to 15 years. And me? I'm living my best life. Legitimately this time. The consulting business is thriving. My credit score is over 800, and I'm dating someone amazing who thinks my story about destroying my criminal sister is both terrible and fascinating. Sometimes justice isn't just served. Sometimes it's served with a side of karma and a garnish of poetic irony. Jessica wanted to be an influencer. Now she's influencing other inmates. Trent wanted to live the high life. Now the highlight of his day is probably commissary food. And me? I'm the guy who turned his sister's attempt to destroy his life into a multi-million-dollar payday and a thriving business. Not bad for the boring brother who just worked with numbers. Sometimes the best revenge really is living well and letting the justice system do its job.